So our keynote speaker tonight is Tom Steyer. He is a philanthropist and a business leader who reminds us that we all have a moral responsibility to give back and to make sure that all Californians share in the benefits of economic opportunity. Acting on that belief, he and his wife, Kat Taylor, founded a nonprofit community bank in Oakland in 2007 to provide loans to those shut out by traditional banking systems and to invest back in the community. Tom and Kat in 2010 pledged to contribute most of their wealth to charity during their lifetimes. That same year, Tom worked to defeat Proposition 23, an attempt by the oil industry to roll back California's cap-and-trade law. In 2012, he stepped up again to address another of California's most pressing issues, public education, by leading a campaign to close a corporate loophole to invest what has amounted to more than $1 billion back in our schools. There are some out there who speculate that Tom would someday make a great governor of California. But right now, he serves as president of Next Gen Climate, an organization he founded to prevent climate disaster and to promote prosperity for all Californians. Tom, thank you so much for caring enough to be here with us tonight. Welcome.
So let me say what a pleasure it is to be here tonight, because it is always fun to be in California. It is always fun to be with people where you're considered a moderate, maybe even a conservative in this group, for all I know. But I want to thank Cathy and everybody on the board. I want to thank Darrie and the staff. I want to thank the chefs and all the volunteers. This really is a fantastic night and a fantastic organization, so it's a treat to be here with you. Let me say, my wife Catherine and I own a ranch about 20 miles north of here, just outside Pescadero. And she's turned it in, I'm not sure how many of you guys know this, into a gigantic experiment in regenerative agriculture. So she is that, through that, everybody on the ranch knows the Homeless Garden Project. Catherine's been here before. That is the original connection here. And I'm going to talk for about 10 minutes, then Kat's going to talk, and then hopefully we'll have time to take questions, because if we can make this as interactive as possible, that's better for us, and hopefully it'll be interesting for everybody. So if you can think of questions, anything you want to ask, we believe in radical transparency. So we're not that interesting is the problem. We're willing to be transparent, but who cares? But let me say this. I spend 95% of my time on Next Gen. And our work comes from a single principle that I think is shared really deeply with the Homeless Garden Project, and that's this. We believe that every American not only has the right to the same political protections and privileges, but also deserves the same respect and dignity as every other American. And if you believe just that one thing, the policies just fall out of that. And when you are faced with questions about education or health or foreign policy, it's easy to come up with the answers as long as you know the basic value that you're coming from. And let me say that in California, I mean, we spent 1.5 years looking at inequality in California, and we have great inequality here. But we have a state with a functioning democracy that is attempting to deal with those problems. And you can see we have a supermajority in both parts of the legislature. Every statewide official is a Democrat, whereas 10 years ago we were bankrupt, we couldn't pay anybody. We were literally paying state employees with scrip and cutting places for battered women to go, shelters for battered women to go. I mean, when you start cutting that, you've really hit rock bottom. We are now, as imperfect as we are, I think we are the best example in the United States of people trying to deal with their problems in a realistic and smart way. And I give a lot of credit to the Californian people for pulling it together and for the elected officials for doing a good job. I really do. Yeah. But let me say this, that I love being in California. I really do. But outside California, Republicans control 32 state legislatures, 34 governorships, both houses of Congress, the White House, and the Supreme Court. And if you really think about the single principle that they're coming from a principle of money is speech, which the Supreme Court has said that money in politics can't be controlled because it's free speech and you can't control free speech. Corporations are people, which they've also ruled at the Supreme Court that they have the rights of people and therefore they can give the money. And therefore that in a sense what they want is equality for every dollar instead of equality for every person. And that leads you to some really crazy outcomes. So what to do about it? I mean, here we are. We're in a state where, as imperfect as we are getting things done. We did reauthorize cap and trade. There are a bunch of, we did the sanctuary state. There are a lot of things that have gotten done this year and last year. So the question is, what can we do? So we believe that there are two things at NextGen that we're absolutely committed to. One is grassroots. In 2016 in California, we organized 60 community organization and democratic clubs to register 807,000 Californians. Because we said, let's change the math. Let's get the young people registered and voting. Let's get the underrepresented communities, mostly poor communities of color, registered and voting. Let's get the broadest possible democracy where everybody gets the same voice and the same vote, and let's see what happens. And that's what happened. We really believe that the answer to our problems is more democracy. Voter-to-voter contact, the kind of thing that's been going on in the United States for hundreds of years. Outside California, we also did this, but we didn't do it nearly as much as we did here. We knocked on 12.5 million doors in 7 swing states last year, and we were on 370 college campuses in an organization. Wow. And we were doing the same thing, which is to say, we believe in Americans talking to each other about the issues of the day. We were talking about economic justice, environmental justice, racial justice, and schools. Saying to people, engage, be part of the system, participate. And what we saw was those people participated 23% more than the same people we didn't talk to, and were 8% more likely to vote in a progressive way. We really believe in grassroots, and that's what we're doubling down on. I thought after we won on November 8th, we'd probably dismantle this organization. Yeah, exactly. Ha, ha, ha. I will say yesterday, we're doing the same thing. Yesterday, I was in Southern California talking to some of the organizations that we're working with down there. And it was incredibly moving because we're talking to Native organizations, LGBTQ people. We're talking to previously incarcerated organizations. We're going out to Latino, very poor Latino groups, homeless groups, low-income housing groups, to get the people registered, engaged, and participating. And so when you see that coalition, that is how we will prevail. Because if we get the democracy that is possible for us, that is half of the answer. But the other half of the answer that I am absolutely obsessed with is to retell the story of where we are. Because the fact of the matter is, everyone is sitting here reacting to Republicans. And the question is, okay, we're not neo-Nazis. Okay, we aren't neo-Nazis, but that doesn't say who we are. That's the lowest bar I can think of for defining who we are. We're not in the KKK. Okay, yeah, That doesn't speak to what we are and how we're actually addressing today's problems. So here's what I'd say about who we are. See if I can get this without a feedback. One is, we are going to stand up for the rights of every American. And that's a broad group of rights that are being attacked. For instance, it includes immigrant rights. We're doing a lot to help immigrant rights groups hire more people, be able to hire more people, train more people, to represent people who are under threat of deportation. A woman's right to choose. A woman's right to decide when she is going to have a family is something that, if she doesn't have it, how is she going to control her own life? There is a systematic attempt to take away the right to vote for African Americans in the United States. That is a systematic, ongoing effort that they're trying to step up. LGBTQ rights. There is, it isn't hard to find rights that are being trampled. And the question is, if we don't stand up for Muslim rights. I have spent so much time this year with Muslim organizations to reassure them that we're with them, to reassure them that Americans stand up for each other when they're in trouble and getting picked on. And those guys were there yesterday. So one is stand up for the individual rights of Americans. Two is invest in the American people. I looked at Trump's budget. It's a bare bones budget, so it doesn't take long. But basically, he takes money away from investments in people across the board. So you look at education, no, takes money away. Healthcare, no. The thing that drove me emotionally the craziest was that they take away the money for free lunch for poor kids. Non-essential. Non-essential. If you're poor enough that you can't afford lunch, you're probably not getting a great breakfast or dinner. And if you're a kid, food is not a non-essential. In the richest country in the world, we can't afford to invest in lunch for our citizens, our youngest citizens, who are our future. That is insane and insanely wicked. But let me say this. Think about what a successful society is in the 21st century. This is the information age. A successful society has productive, educated citizens that can accomplish things in the real world. That's a successful society, not a society that has a lot of oil and gas. Venezuela has the second biggest oil reserve in the world after Saudi Arabia, and they can't turn the lights on in their hospitals. Think about who has a lot of oil and gas and wonder, do we want to be like those guys? It's a terrible group. Think about the societies. Japan has no natural resources, and they're an incredibly successful society. We will be successful if the American people are successful. So we should be investing in them, not in prisons, not in new guns and tanks. We will be successful across the world if we invest in ourselves and make ourselves productive, and it will be much more just. And the last thing is this. It is impossible to look at what's happened over the last month, the floods, the hurricanes, and the fires, and think we don't have to change the way that we're powering our society. It's pretty obvious that we do. And you know something? If we do that, if we build a clean America, we will create millions of jobs in every place. Our job is to make sure those are decent paying jobs that are spread through every community and can be organized. Because one of the things they're trying to take away is the right for working people to organize. Systematically trying to deny working people the right to organize. And when you don't have the right to organize, you end up with the kind of inequality that we have. So if we build a clean America, the fact of the matter is, if we did just those three things, invest in the American citizens, stand up for the rights of every human being in this country, and build a clean America, I would get up in the morning and feel like, wow, I have a spring in my step because we're going to do something together that is fantastic. And we are actually going to produce a better world for our kids, and we're going to feel like that's the tradition of America. That is what every generation has thought to do, and that's what we should be trying to do. Not dividing ourselves, not attacking ourselves, and trying to go back. You know, I'm about to introduce my wife, but let me say this. Make America great again. For whom? Make America great again is a statement. I ask all of my friends who are not white males, do you really want to go back? Do you really want to go back to 1950 or 1925 or, God forbid, 1850 and think about the restrictions on human beings that were built into our society? Go make America great again that way? Go back to that? No way. America has been about progress in treating people equally. We started from a very unequal place. And we've worked really hard. People in this country have bled and sweat and cried to make it happen. And so the idea that we're going to go back is insane. So let me say this. Part of building a sustainable, clean America is agriculture. And I happen to have one of the craziest regenerative agriculturalists around waiting to explain that to you. Kat Taylor.
Sorry. Hold on the mic. They say that these are not the best of times, but they're the only times I'll ever know. And I believe there is a time for meditation in cathedrals of our own. So when I see that sad surrender in my brother's eyes, I can't stand aside and only sympathize. For we are always what our situation hands us. It's either sadness or euphoria. Thanks, Billy Joel, for letting me modify the words a little bit. Who knew that would still be a relevant song? Okay, first of all, I want to give a shout out to Kevin Watt, who I've been trying to see. Kevin, are you here? No? Okay. Anybody else from Tomcat Ranch? Because I'm the imposter here. I'm representing the team at Tomcat Ranch and Tomcat Ranch Educational Foundation, and I am so humbled and honored to be amidst this blessed unrest. So many friends and advocates and wise people who know what we need to do and know that we need to do it together. Thank you for being part of the Lentil Underground. I just heard about that tonight. I've been falsely calling myself part of the French Underground. Who are we at Team Tomcat? We are a ranch seeking to discover and de-risk, and I would say that's rediscover in many cases, and de-risk animal agricultural practices that optimize for the greatest societal value. I was a vegetarian for 12 of my 58 years, and I do not want to convince anyone to eat meat. That's not the point of it. It's just that we need to move back to regenerative agriculture in all forms and regenerative economies, and we likely need those ungulates back on the land to create the healthy soils, whether we eat them or not. So, what does Tomcat Ranch Educational Foundation do? We host a learning lab for strategies to re-sequester carbon into soils, enhance water quality and retention, and restore biodiversity, all while producing a healthy food product in an economically viable and ethical way. With conservation science partners Point Blue providing robust ecological monitoring and guidance on site, Tomcat Ranch broadcasts those results to inform other land managers, public and private, and increase the incentives for the management regime that produces those co-benefits. Our audacious new goal is to be a primary influence in migrating 1 million acres in California from conventional to regenerative ranching. Start counting. We also grant fund into the ecosystem for food system change, like big buyer strategies to shift supply chains beneficially. California Food for California Kids being one that I want to talk about briefly. The empowerment of eaters from all settings. New Farm Bill insurance products that reward healthy soils management. Soils testing methodology that gets at what we really need versus the soil as a vessel for expensive inputs, and food movement building in general amidst all of you blessed unrest. Agriculturalists, old and new, have known and augured how devoted we must be to healthy soils. Climate change has largely been fueled by too much carbon leaving our soils where it can only do good, and escaping to the atmosphere or the oceans where high levels are wreaking havoc. The focus on emission reductions being very well placed, it nonetheless blinds us sometimes to the equally near-term promise of re-sequestering carbon into the soils where it belongs through agriculture. It's our biggest carbon sink. Adopting land management strategies from pasture-raised animals to no-till organic row cropping, like you do here, will go a long way toward turning this tide. Regenerative agricultural practices recruit that carbon back to the photosynthesis and microbial exchange that creates durable soil carbon and the most fertile lands the world has ever known. Animals and grasslands evolved for hundreds of millions of years with us to create the prolific breadbaskets of the world. The Great Plains, the Yukon, the Eastern breadbaskets, and one right here in California as rich as the African Serengeti, the Central Valley, which once supported an ecosystem with keystone fauna like 2 types of camels, 2 types of elephants, lions and grizzly bear, and year-round wetlands. Yep, Frez, yes, baby. We can return to and improve regenerative practices and restore these lands, but sadly, fortunes have been made serially, and I mean that with a C, by denuding soils. I mean nothing against the good people of farming and ranching, but stealing nutrients from soils can line a pocket or two and go unnoticed for generations. Faceless agents of industrial ag and related financial interests, because it is a deeply financialized system, have confounded true soil health with human-created regimes, practices that have proven bankrupt over time for requiring expensive, non-organic inputs made through high-energy production, increasing our use of highly toxic chemicals, ratcheting up deleterious farm debt, and now making among the largest contributions to climate instability. These regimes will never replace the power of the microbial communities to build topsoil, I'll tell you that. And it's actually quite dangerous to suggest that we can wreck the planet to feed 9 billion people, because where will they live afterwards? We have strayed way too close to that reality for the question to remain existential. We cannot, indeed we need not do better than nature, for she does magnificently. The industrial agents make outlandish claims of feeding the world. On the contrary, their inputs have grotesquely distorted our food chain, emboldened financial markets to overwhelm the role of actual food in the food system, and enslaved our agricultural workers to an industrial complex that poisons them. We are not obliged to serve the private shareholders and the commodities trading interests that hawk these wares. These practices have nothing to offer toward reliably feeding a growing world. Moreover, they will not return balance to the carbon cycle. So as we stop accelerating to climate disaster to provide healthy fare that reduces rather than launches disease trajectories like obesity, diabetes, and heart disease, let's embrace nature. The future belongs to our big brains, our technology, but mostly to our solving for pattern in concert with nature. The way we have prosecuted our natural resource agenda in the past has led to deep and enduring structural injustice, from the Roman Empire to the slave economy and native genocide to global diasporas right now of immigrants and refugees. But we can move from the taking economy to the nature of economies if we never separate environmental well-being from social justice and always base our development paradigm on equity. That's where the Homeless Garden Project harmonizes our highest aims. Let those disconnected from our old economy be among the first to lead the way to a new economy through regenerative agriculture, while they provide for themselves and their loved ones with dignity and respect. It's what you guys are getting done. Some say once you're gone forever, and some say you're gonna come back. Some say you'll rest in the arms of the Savior if in sinful ways you lack. I believe in love and I live my life accordingly. So think for now, I'll let the mystery be. Everybody is wondering where and what we all come from. Everybody is wondering where we're gonna go when the whole thing's done. Nobody knows for certain, and so it's all the same to me. Think for now, I'll let the mystery be. Think for now, I'll let the mystery be. Thanks for having us, you guys.
You guys. It's terrible showing up with Cat, I'll be honest with you. So, as a special favor to Justin Wright, we'll take at least one question so he doesn't have to follow Catherine, which is always a big, fat mistake. Sir.
So I have two questions. The first one is for, I hope it's okay to call you Cat, because Tomcat. So we were hoping that we'd be able to have Mel with us here, but can you speak a little bit about what you're doing up on the ranch with regard to the bird project? Because I understand that you're one of the ranches in sort of this area that is now helping support a project that's surveying all the birds and observing what they're doing. Just talk a little bit about that, because we got to meet Mel through her current partner, and she's amazing.
Yes, yeah.
Great things about Tomcat.
Yes, so Mel and all of the staff of Point Blue. Point Blue started as Point Reyes Bird Observatory. It then migrated to PRBO Conservation Science. It's rebranded Point Blue, but is one of the longest standing ornithological science organizations on the West Coast. It has, I think, now 50 years of longitudinal bird data. And the reason they're focused on birds is that birds are a fantastic indicator species for overall ecological health. We have built-in bird monitoring on site, and it's actually a wonderful way to engage youth and other people because we do bird netting, safe for the birds. But so we see a myriad number of species and higher volumes of birds migrating through, which is a good thing. But we also know when something is not going quite right. They also have geocoded the whole ranch, and we have deep ecological information about flora and fauna throughout the ranch for scientific purposes that is approaching longitudinal 2. It's been in place at least 8 years. So we're getting there. And it helps us do things like so we practice intensive management or rotational grazing. There's many terms you could use for it. But so the ranch is carved out into 72 pastures, and our aim is to give every pasture the maximum amount of rest and to also manage for bird nesting. So it allows us, their monitoring and our management practice allow us to optimize for societal value, including ecological health. But it also allowed them to publish a paper noting that before the management practice, perennial grasses were present in only 3 of the 72 pastures, and 3 years later they were present in all. So these deep seed banks are resilient and they hang around, but they need the right impetus, and they need competition for the non-natives to come out. In addition to that, Point Blue presides over the Rangeland Monitoring Coalition, which is now, I think it's 82 ranches representing a lot of acreage in California, which is a shared practice community. And it's also a bit of a political community, not overtly, but we need to start suggesting the regimes that, say, Air Resource Board or other carbon regimes, sort of payment regimes, reward, like the things that we actually want, not the things that we don't want. Commodity soy and corn are things that are hurting us. So having the science is essential, and we know it's not possible on most livelihood ranches. So that we open source all of that. Their biologists go and to many other ranches to try to help get at these management supports, I would say. And they're just a fantastic partner to be with. So thank you for noticing Val. She's awesome.
The follow-up question is to Tom. So Tom, I was at a meeting this morning from LGBTQ, and they brought a speaker, a senior political correspondent for the Chronicle for many years, now for Politica, Carla Marinucci, to speak here in town. And typical question came up, well, who are the Democrats going to put up for president? She said, well, it's obvious Bernie's running and Elizabeth's running. And then she said, I keep hearing about this guy, Tom Steyer. He's already said he's not running for governor, he's not running for U.S. Senate, but every time, and we definitely heard it tonight in terms of your focus on the national scene, you're calling Trump to cause. And so she was saying that Tom Steyer is, and I'm suggesting you might want to make an announcement.
So let me.
And if you don't, after the presentation that you guys have done, I think that we might have to ask Kat if she would.
Get on that, please. Please. I would say a couple things about this. One is, please give me the list of Democrats who are not running, because it's shorter than the list of people who are running. The second thing I'd say is this. Looking at it, I started by saying that I think that California is in relatively good shape, and we are. I mean, as a society, we share a lot of values, and we trust that the people who we're arguing with actually have good intentions, and therefore the democracy can work and we can compromise with each other, because there's an assumption that we're all trying to do the right thing. And that's something that is incredibly important in democracy. What we can see in our dysfunctional national democracy is that's not true. Is that people do not trust each other to have good intentions, and in fact, therefore, the possibility of compromise becomes remote. And I'll give you an example. I always say to people, we're not compromising on the rights of Americans. We're not going to say, fine, prevent 100,000 African Americans from voting instead of 200,000. That's our compromise. We're not going to do it. Thank you. And so on the national, I'm actually answering your question. It's shocking to me the crisis we're in. It really is. Not just the climate crisis, but a huge political crisis where the question is, will this democracy actually respond to the needs of its citizens, or is it effectively going to be hacked by money? Are we going to represent the profits of corporations and the people who run and own those corporations? That is the actual question in the United States right now. And so when I look and think about myself as I think of myself as being super lucky, incredibly lucky for where I was born, for my parents being so good to me, for being in the United States. I think of myself as incredibly lucky, and I think that unlike my parents and grandparents, I wasn't born at a time when I was going to get drafted and have to do something really, really dangerous and difficult. And so I look at this as my opportunity, and I would suggest our opportunity to do what is the American tradition of when things are actually really tough and you don't know how it's going to turn out, that is the time you can make a contribution. And that's exactly how I see this. And I look at this group of people. Let's face it. If we went to Houston, Texas, they would think that the people of Santa Cruz, California are a bunch of crazed hippies. And they would think that the values yeah, that's a compliment. No, but let me say this. I look at you guys and I say, you're realistic. You're actually dealing with human beings as human beings. You're actually looking at the natural world as the natural world. You're trying to deal with the facts on the ground in a sensible, forward-thinking, humane way. That's what we're supposed to do. I look at what they're doing in the oil and gas industry, denying the facts. They're supposed hard-nosed. Really? Since when did lying become hard-nosed? Since when did causing destruction become mature? Since when did refusing to take care of your fellow Americans become patriotic? I look at us as the patriots. I look at us as the stewards of American values, and I absolutely reject the idea that being forward-thinking is suddenly a sin. So I salute you guys. Because what's really going on is we have to take back the narrative of what it means to be an American. And as they try and shred people away, we have to make sure that we are inclusive and we add people to say that's the tradition that we're in. And that's the one that we're going to push forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tom and Kat. This is a gift from... with love from all of us at Homeless Garden Project, that's made by our trainees and grown by our trainees. Thank you so much. And Tom and Kat will be around after the dinner for a while at least, if you have more questions. My name is Darrie Ganzhorn, and I'm the Executive Director. And I'm here to introduce Justin Wright, who is our trainee speaker. I believe that hearing from our trainees is the single most powerful way to understand what happens here at Homeless Garden Project. I believe it takes a lot of courage to come and speak to a large group like this, and I really applaud Justin for having that courage. So Justin is a trainee in our transitional employment program. This is our core program, and it's complemented by two other programs. One is called Connecting with Community. That is the support services program that we have. Providing support services in a transitional employment program is considered a best practice. And our other program is called Cultivating Community, and that's our volunteer program that last year served 2,188 people who volunteered their time across the organization. And it's very connected to the transitional employment program. For those of you who came on the tour with me, I talked about how important feeling belonging to a community is in terms of healing and transformation. And the volunteer program really makes that possible here at Homeless Garden Project. So trainees work 20 hours per week in our enterprises. They attend lectures, they meet weekly with their social worker, they share lunch, and they work alongside volunteers. Each week we have a circle meeting. We work Tuesday through Friday, so we start the week on Tuesday morning, 9 a.m. with a circle meeting. And Justin's going to refer to that. The project started in 1990, and I've been here 26 of those 27 years. And I say that because, over those years, we've served about 650 people, and I've worked with the majority of those people. And one thing I've learned for sure is that everyone comes here with very particular and complex histories, current realities, strengths and abilities, fears and dreams. And I've seen a lot of struggles and challenges faced by the people we serve. And I've been honored and inspired to see that people want to succeed. They have an amazing capacity for resilience, and they work really hard in our program. So if you look on the back of your program at at Justin's bio, he has his own particular and complex history that he brings here. If I would just say a few words about Justin in addition to what's on that program, the words I would use to describe him are smart, kind, humble, but mostly I think of him as a leader. So with that, I bring you Justin Wright.
Thank you, Darrie. Well, first of all, I would like to thank everyone for being here tonight. An extra special thanks to Mr. Tom Steyer and Kat Taylor. I really haven't heard such a clear-headed talk about justice and equality since seeing Bernie speak in Monterey. So, so think about running because it's... But whether you're here to volunteer, to work, to donate, or simply enjoy a wonderful evening with great company and delicious fresh farm-to-table food, thank you sincerely for being here. It is truly an honor to be asked to speak at such a special occasion, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to be able to express myself. So I've decided I will begin tonight like we do every Tuesday morning at Circle and have a check-in. Tuesday morning Circle can get a little personal, and I promise my share tonight won't be any different. So, hi, my name is Justin, and I'm a trainee at Homeless Garden Project. We say that basically every day. But it's good because we introduce our names and we get to know each other that way. Tonight, other than being a little nervous, I'm doing great and happy to get the opportunity to share an evening with you all and eat some world-class food in the middle of my favorite field in Santa Cruz. It's mid-September, so the autumn weather, which is my favorite, is beginning to arrive, and some northwest swells are beginning to hit our shores. So naturally, I'm stoked. Other times, though, I'm a mess. Though I've been blessed with a wonderful family who got to make it here tonight, and a great education, I have a thing called unspecified bipolar disorder, and I'm in recovery from a drug and alcohol problem. These times when I'm unstable, I think about all the felonies I've gotten for things I've done while being manic and psychotic, a different Justin than the one you see standing here today. Like a bewitched Don Quixote, I have literally scared the crap out of my friends, my parents, my siblings, my neighbors, and burnt several bridges with landlords and employers. I cry when I think about it. Who is ever going to give me a real full-time job? Who's going to let me rent from their property with my background of psychotic behavior? When I have these thoughts, it feels utterly hopeless and helpless, and I think about all the people just in this little town of Santa Cruz who must feel the same way I do. Many people like me who have mental health or substance abuse problems end up on the streets. Most aren't lucky enough to end up in a rehabilitation center like I am, with a bed to sleep in and a roof over their head. And this is why I am grateful for the Homeless Garden Project, which provides people like me with hope. Santa Cruz is just a small town, and I think we all realize that the help that people with mental health get in this country needs some work, and Homeless Garden Project addresses these issues in a manner that I think is exceptional. So tonight is a representation of a community recognizing these issues and a small independent nonprofit organization trying to do something about it. I will say from a trainee's perspective, we collectively are extremely thankful, hella thankful. The Homeless Garden Project provides a safe and sober work environment where we can be relieved from the problems we face either on the street or in recovery centers. As Bob Dylan would put it, the Homeless Garden Project provides us shelter from the storm. The Homeless Garden Project also offers us work to all of us without discrimination. Regardless of our criminal background, substance abuse, or mental health background, we are offered support from HGP as long as we share the goal of finding a full-time job and housing. Not only does the program offer indiscriminate acceptance, but the work we do promotes healthy healing. The seeds we plant do not discriminate, and the flowers blossom for everyone, regardless of his or her age, ethnicity, race, or socioeconomic background. This garden is a true place of acceptance, and I welcome and thank everyone for being here tonight as a beauty and a part of the beauty of this acceptance. If you are here tonight, it is likely you realize that today we live in a difficult age, where our minds, our bodies, our society, and our relationships are out of whack. Our society is fragmented by income inequality, which Tom talked about way better than I could, and stressors are driving many of us out of control. Again, Homeless Garden Project comes to the rescue. Gardening is a universal grounding practice that relieves anxiety and teaches us stillness. Just earlier tonight, I was talking to a couple I just met who said they're not good at gardening, but they do it anyways because that's just amazing. I found that it relieves anxiety and teaches us inner stillness personally, and here I've really felt an incredible amount of personal growth and inner stillness in this garden. So tonight, that was my share. I invite each and every one of you to someday join us on a Tuesday morning so we can hear yours. I feel the more we open up and be honest about our situations, the more we can all personally heal. So I'm going to be here, and if I left a few questions about my history, didn't go in as depth as maybe Shannon did last time, but please feel free to come and ask me about my history, and I'd be happy to share with you. Thank you all once again very, very much, and I wish you all an incredible evening.
Wow. Whew. What an honor. How to follow those incredible thought leaders from Tom and Kat, from Cathy and Darrie, and from Justin. Incredible thought leaders. My name's Paul Goldberg. I'm the development director here at the Homeless Garden Project. And I have the distinct, thank you. I have the distinct honor to come up here and thank you all for participating. It's one of my favorite quotes. Our trainee graduate, April Wilson, said at our last year's fall dinner, "You who are here tonight are the catalysts of change." And she was able to sum up my career in nonprofit development in one line better than I ever could. And you know, that change, it's not theoretical. It is very real. 91% of last year's graduates obtained stable housing and stable income. That's real change. That's real change. That's deep transformative change. And you know, that's our mission. And I want to refer to our program where we also talk about our vision and our values. Because our vision and values have been echoed and have been throughout everyone's talk tonight. Kat's talk, Tom's talk, Justin's talk. In particular, you know, our vision is lofty. We envision a thriving and inclusive. Inclusive is the word that's so critical and was throughout tonight. Community, workforce, and local food system. And that was throughout everyone's talk tonight. And so that's echoing everything we've heard. And this vision rarely represents our ideals. And our ideals are here in our values, in our value statements. The capacity of everyone for growth and renewal. As Justin just said, the flowers bloom for everyone. How beautiful. What a metaphor. Unbelievable. When I heard that, I was just bowled over, and thank you, Justin. the joy that comes from sharing food together. You know, our dinner tonight was served family style, and that's on purpose. Because when we break bread together, when we eat together, there is that joy. And what a shame to take away school lunch. Everyone needs to be edibly educated, as Alice Waters said. You know, it's just unbelievable. 2,100, as Cathy said, thousands of volunteers. Those who are here tonight, more than 2,100 people come here and break bread with our trainees and dig in the dirt together. And we break down those stigmas between the housed and the unhoused members of our society. We are all people. And all of that happens. I want to particularly recognize Karen Reichler, who organized all of this. This dinner doesn't happen without her. So special acknowledgement for Karen. Amazing. And so lastly, the value of well-being created by vibrant societies, social and natural ecosystems. And that's such a broad, wonderful statement, but it's reflected here in reality. It is this idealistic vision that is being played out in reality here on this farm. It's, you know, as an organic farm, we are not only growing food that everyone needs, we're thinking about the earth and forward thinking about how combating climate change and making sure we are not trashing this beautiful place that we are lucky enough to occupy. And then beyond that, to have our social enterprise supporting folks who need just a helping hand. It's not only are we growing the ideal strawberry, we're growing ideal strawberries and tomatoes with ideals. So thank you for sharing in that ideal food with ideals with us. So we are on momentum. We not only are we making this a reality now, we are on a forward path to growth and expansion. We are headed to Pogonip to triple the size of our program, triple the size of our impact. Many of you here have supported us and so continue to support us. And I cannot say thank you enough on behalf of everyone here. And I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask you to continue that support for us. So if the table host could stand up at this point. At every table, we have a table host. If everyone could stand up, recognize yourself. These are our staff members. These are our volunteers. These are our board members. These are the people who make our organization run. And so they have answers, and you are the people who make our organization run. So if you'd like to make a contribution towards the program, please ask your table host for a card. There are pens. I have more. I'll be in the corner, and Mary, our business and finance manager, will be in that back corner, and both of us can process credit cards. And this is a reality of our work. There was brutal transparency. There was a wonderful line. And that's transparency is, as a nonprofit, we rely on you. You make this program run. So thank you so much. Thank you for coming. You are the catalyst of change, and that change is real, and thank you for being here. Please hang out, talk. Cathy will come up to wrap things up.
Thank you, Paul. You're doing a great job. And I'm going to wrap things up by just one more time saying thank you and good night. It was nice to see all of you. Yeah.